Hey everyone, Shane here with etrailer.com. Today I have a 2017 Ford Transit T350. I'm going to walk through how to install the Redarc Tow-Pro Liberty brake controller along with the Tekonsha 7-way harness. Adding a brake controller to your vehicle is going to give you a lot of different options, especially if you're towing a trailer that has brakes on it. Obviously, if you're towing a trailer without brakes, if you're towing a semi-heavy load, you're using the vehicle to stop both the trailer and the truck. With a brake controller, you can set it to whatever load you have on the trailer. So it's got different settings on it for the amount of power you want the brakes to apply on the trailer so that the trailer is slowing and stopping itself. We're not dependent on the vehicle to slow and stop both. We look at a controller. The nice thing about these brake controllers is they're very minimally invasive. They're not like the old style, which if you know the older style, the big block style, they typically have to be mounted somewhere on the lower dash here, and they have to be mounted a certain way. So there's not as much room to mount those. So with these, we can pretty much mount these wherever you want or wherever you can on the dash, as long as you have enough space behind the dash, because the control module for it actually mounts underneath the dash to a secure location. And once you get it installed, you take the vehicle out and you hit the brakes several times, and when it does, it learns that direction of travel. So that means this controller can be mounted anywhere. So this controller knob is not any bigger than any other button on your dash. It's very easy to use, and it works the same as a traditional brake controller. You have your gain, which has got 1 through 10. You turn the knob to however high you want it, and again, however high you turn that, that's how much pressure you're going to get on the brakes on the trailer. So depending on the load, the higher the number you want to be. There's an LED light on there, so whatever number you have it set at, that LED light is going to come on a certain color when you hit the brakes, when you have a trailer hooked up to it. Manual override is just the push of the button. So you simply, if you just want to apply the brakes on the trailer, you push that button. You know, if you're going down a hill or something and it's rocky, and you want to use the trailer brakes to help kind of slow down the vehicle, push that manual override button and it applies the brakes on the trailer and not the vehicle. It is a proportional brake controller, which means whatever number you have this set at, whether it's 1 or 10, as soon as you hit the brakes on the vehicle, the brakes are going to be applied on the trailer. The intensity is going to be what you have the gain set at. So let's say we have a semi-heavy load, we have it turned up on 6. Somebody pulls out in front of you, you slam on the brakes in the vehicle, it's automatically going to apply the brakes on the trailer and go up to the intensity you have it set on the brake controller. As far as the installation process, the wiring harness, I would say that's pretty simple. It hooks right into your tail lights. Running it up is easy. Batteries under the seat, I will say that's kind of a pain, to be honest, but it's not real bad. The best way that I found is to take the 4 bolts out of the seat without disconnecting any wiring. Take the 4 screws out of the seat and just lean the seat back onto the back seat, and it gives you total access to the top of the battery box, and it makes it a lot easier. With this vehicle, some of the older model Transit vans, the battery box actually sat down on the floor. With this one, it doesn't. So to get your wires up into that box, you're going to have to drill a hole through the floor. It's not hard. Once you do that, you can run the wiring harness, 3 wires right up into the battery box. And when you mount your module, you're going to have to extend a couple wires over because those are going to have to be hooked to the battery as well. Other than that, the hardest part about it is going to be finding a place to put this button. We actually got lucky because this was an open dummy plug or dummy cover. So I popped it out, made sure I was able to get the wire that connects from the control module to the back of the controller here up through there, which I was able to, obviously. So I just had to clean out the inside of this, drill the hole for this to fit in it, and it fits right in place. I will say, I checked several other places on this vehicle before I picked that one, and I couldn't get it in there. I wouldn't be able to, because the back of the dash here has a bunch of plastic on it, and the brake controller itself would not fit there. I didn't try anywhere over here. The neighbor says that you know, his wife has a very big cup with a handle on it, so he didn't want it over here because it'd probably get in the way. So that was my place that I picked. It was open in the back. I was able to get the wire in there, and made it pretty simple as far as getting that in and getting everything wired up. If the installation process seems a little bit too much for you, maybe you don't have the time, maybe you don't have the space, you can always check out our dealer locator, find someone near you that's able to put it in. If it is something you want to try, you can get it done. If you want to give it a try, follow along with me and I'll walk you how to do it now. To start your installation for your brake controller, if your vehicle doesn't have a factory tow package, which most of them do not, you're going to need wiring to be able to control the brakes on your trailer. There's two ways to go about it. You can do an ETBC7. With an ETBC7, you're also going to need a 4-pole wiring harness to connect behind your tail lights, and then it comes down and the 4-pole connects to the ETBC7. That gives you your wiring to run up to the front of the vehicle and connect to your brake controller. The second way is they actually make a wiring harness for brake controllers for this vehicle that gives you the plugs to tie into your lights, the 7-pole, and the wiring to run up. It's already got all the wires in it to run to your brake controller. That's the way I recommend doing it, is using that wiring harness where everything is all combined into one. We're going to start right here in the corner, driver's side, behind the rear tire. You'll see two covers here. We're going to use the bigger one. It's like a flathead screwdriver, trim panel tool. If you can't get it with your fingers, I obviously can't. My fingers are too fat. And that's going to give you a large pocket that's going to go up behind the taillight where we're going to connect our wiring harness. On the inside of the van, driver's side, this panel here. If you have this cover, pop this off. It'll give you access to the hole. If you don't have this cover, some of them are just a panel, you're going to have to pull this rubber seam out just a little bit so you can pop this panel out to get access to this hole behind it. You can see my light shining through. The access hole where we took off that cover at the bottom is kind of located right in this area down on the bottom. So we're going to have to feed our wiring kind of up and through. Before I do that, I'm going to pop these off. Give me a little bit more room to work. We can always put these back on. Like that. And we can do this two ways. We can take this, feed it up from the bottom, or we can take all of this and feed it down. I am going to try feeding this up so I don't have to try to push all that down through that hole. My arm's a little bit too big to reach all the way down in there and grab it. If you have smaller forearms, you might be able to reach down there and get it. So I'm going to use a pull wire. I'm going to feed this down. I'll tape my wire to the end of it and I'll pull it up through there. This box and this self-tapper, or this ground wire, is actually going to go back down and out. I'm just giving myself enough space that I can get this connected behind the taillight, this connected, and get this grommet back in up there. So for now, we'll leave it sit there. Go ahead and remove the plug from our pull wire. We're going to take a T25 Torx bit. We're going to have a bolt here and one down here. We'll remove those, and that'll allow us to remove our tail light. If it makes it easier, you can always get a trim panel tool, a plastic one, stick it in the edge right here, and just kind of wedge it a little bit to pop it out. Be careful that you don't crack your light though. We're going to undo it from the back of our tail light. And we'll set our taillight aside. We're going to take this rubber grommet, we're going to push it in like that. You're going to reach in, grab the whole assembly that you just put through the hole. We're going to connect it to the appropriate side. It's only going to connect to one. Push it in like that. We're going to take this in, we're going to go back out through the hole, and that grommet is going to replace the factory one. So we'll squeeze the whole grommet, push it through the hole. Just like that. This will connect to our taillight. We can go ahead and reinstall our taillight if we want. We're going to take the rest of this, we're going to go back down, and we can put our cover back on, and we can go underneath the vehicle. We're going to take our converter box. It's going to come with this foam pad, it's double-sided sticky tape. Put it on the back. Now you can do this two ways. You can take this and stick it on the outside of the vehicle. However, if at all possible, you want to put it inside because the weather gets to this and it breaks down that foam. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put it up inside this hole and stick it to the inside wall. We'll trim out the cover to go around the wire, and it'll keep that protected and keep the moisture and water off of it. Find a flat spot. Press it into place. Now we're going to take our cover, and on the bottom side you're going to have little squares. I'm going to trim out one square in the corner, and I come back with some sealant and seal around it where I cut that out. So I'm going to cut that out, fit it in there, or get it trimmed out to where I can fit that in there, and then we'll move on to the ground wire. We'll go ahead and get our ground wire self-tapped into the body somewhere. This plug, grommet for our passenger side, right up over top of our hitch there. And this side will feed up through this pocket on our passenger side. It'll hook to the back of the taillight, same way we did the driver's side. You're going to get this little plug. It's going to go into the back of your 7-pole. On the back of it, it's not going to be marked like this. I actually marked the colors on there. But you want this to be up and this to be down when you look at the instructions on where they go. All we're going to do is we're going to take each one of them in the spot they go in, and they'll snap into place. And you're going to repeat that for the remaining ones. Once you get your wires into the back of your 7-pole, you're going to have this little black clip, or I'm sorry, gray clip. You need to get it like that. Slide it in, push down. That's what's going to help hold those connections in from coming disconnected. Now, your kit is not going to come with this 7-pole bracket, so you will need to pick that up. You can find different options here at eTrailer. We'll take our 7-pole plug, we're going to put it into place, slide a bolt through. On the back side, we're going to put a, as far as this one goes, a flat washer, a lock washer, and a nut. They could be a little bit different depending on which one you get and the hardware that comes with it. We're going to take this, you're going to line up this piece with this edge here. You want to push it on until you hear it click. Now I'm going to get the rest of this right up to the front of the vehicle, and I'll show you how I did it after I'm done. Run your wire up to the front. You want to stay away from anything hot or moving. It's very easy on this vehicle. You have factory lines that run all along the frame rail. So just zip tie it up every once in a while to keep it from dangling down. I'm going to try it along the inside here. I actually went over this bracket, this factory bracket that's here. Zip tie there, went over this bracket. What we want to do is we want to go to right under the driver's seat. There is, because that's where the battery is. These wires need to run up into the battery compartment. So I'll go inside, we'll move the seat forward, and I'll show you how to get access to the batteries. So at the back of our seat, there's actually a plastic cover that fits right over top of this. Just pop it off. 8mm socket. We're going to move this screw and this screw. You're going to have a wire here. We need to slide this off. And this guy here, we need to also pull that off. And that one there. We'll slide this bracket out. This is going to give us access to our battery box. I got the cover off the battery. I was finding it difficult to actually get down in there to where I'm going to have to bring my wires up. So what I decided to do is in 4 of the corners, you're going to have some star screws. Rather than unplugging all of this off the seat and taking it out, because some of this is going to go to probably an airbag sensor and all that, I just took the 4 screws out and took my seat and laid it back. Now I have full access to my battery box. So the only thing that I can see underneath the vehicle from this whole thing here is this vent tube where it runs down like that. If I pull this up and you look right down in here, you can see the hole where the plastic tube comes out. So what I'm going to do, because I don't have any other way in, is right here next to it, right about here, I'm going to drill another hole. I'm going to go through the box and through the floor so that I can pull my wiring up and get them connected to my battery. So that's where my hole came out. I'll get my wire, I'm going to zip tie it right to this hole here. I'll hold it up tight. Once I do that, I can go back up and start getting some other stuff wired. At the very end of it, what we'll do is once we have everything done, this is tight, I'll come back and I'll do silicone sealant here, and also silicone sealant on the inside where the battery, where it's come through the battery box. So this is what our 3 wires are going to look like from the wiring harness we ran up from the back. This is actually a Tekonsha kit, but we're not going to be using a Tekonsha. We're actually installing the Redarc. It's not going to matter, the wires are going to be the same. There's going to be a wiring harness in your kit for the Tekonsha. If you want to do the brake controller we're doing today, it's going to have a plug like this. You got 4 wires on it. White's going to be ground. This blue one, we're going to have to route it from under the dash somewhere, wherever I find a place to mount the unit, over into the battery compartment. It's going to connect to this blue wire on your wiring harness from the back. The black wire from here is going to get a fuse to the battery. This black wire on your wiring harness is going to get fused to the battery. The red one on the wiring harness from the back is going to get fused to the battery. And last, this wiring harness that's going to come off the brake controller plug will go to the cold side of the brake light switch. So I need to determine where I'm going to mount this. It's a little difficult because there's not a whole lot of places under here to mount this to where it's going to be solid. By the way, this panel just pops off. This post right here, it goes to the dash, but it's a solid post. So I think I'm going to end up mounting it on the inside like this, and I'll zip tie it. But what I suggest doing is putting this on first, so you know how high to get it, and so that when you put it on, you don't have to try to plug it in later. Give yourself an idea of how it's going to go. It'll sit something like that. And then you can take some of the zip ties that come in the kit and zip tie it around that. If you're going to do it this way, you need to make sure that where you're going to mount your knob, this line will reach. The only place that I've found that I can get to is there is a, not this side, on the other side of this, but to give you an idea, this button here on that side is a dummy plug. You can pop it out. And I was able to actually feed that plug right down under the dash to right here. So you need to make sure you have a place you're going to put it if you're not going to put it there. Give yourself an idea of how the wire is going to route, if you're going to be able to get it in there. For the back of the brake controller, if you got enough room behind the plug or wherever you're going to put it. So I think putting it here is going to be our best bet. My wire's coming down here from the top of that dummy plug, so I can put this right on the top of the box there. I can zip tie it to that. That'll be solid, and then the rest of my wires, I just have to run them where they need to go. Now, obviously, your zip ties that come with your kit aren't going to be this big. These are just extra ones that I had laying around. But you can actually take a couple of them, run them through there to give it a good solid hold. Go ahead and plug your cable in the top if you're going to put it there. I would plug them in there anyway before you mount this, unless you got great access to it, which we don't. So this is our plug, which is right here in this corner, as I mentioned before. This actually fits right inside of there, but if you look in there, there's a bunch of little plastic pieces that's not allowing this to go all the way in. So what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to cut those out without damaging the outside, so this snaps back in. Once I get all those out, then we'll come back. We're going to drill a hole in this for this end and that little clear thing to stick out of it. So as I explained earlier, we have the 3 wires that came up from our 7-pole plug, and then we have the wires coming from our brake controller plug. 3 wires that I ran over, again, were my blue, my black, and my white. White was ground, blue connects to the blue on the wiring harness from the 7-pole. Black one gets fused from the brake controller fuse. This is the black wire from the brake controller itself. The black wire coming from the 7-pole gets the other 30-amp fuse. It'll say on there 7-way harness power fuse. The red wire from our 7-pole is the tow harness power module. So each one of these fuse holders are marked. You just need to put them on the appropriate wire and connect them to the positive side of the battery. And of course, the ground wire for the wiring, or for the brake controller, was a little bit difficult to get to up there because it's behind every bunch of stuff up here. So what I did is just extended it with my blue and black wire and connected it to the negative side of the battery. From there, we need to find the cold side of the brake light switch. So we know this is your brake light switch here. You just follow your brake pedal arm up, and this switch right here is your brake pedal switch. That one gets power all the time. We don't want that. These last 3 do not have power. So what we do is we push on the brake. We'll touch those other 3. And we know cold side of our brake light switch is going to be, looks like a violet wire with a white stripe. We have a quick connector in there. We'll put this over the wire. take this red wire, stick it in, crimp this down and close it, and that gives us our brake signal from our pedal. Once you get that wire hooked up to the cold side of the brake light switch, go ahead and insert your fuses into your fuse holders. Once you insert your fuses, push the knob on your brake controller, you should get a blue light. That means we're all connected. Now we'll test everything out on our 7-pole. Left turn, right turn, brakes, running lights, brake controller. So now if you notice the brake controller light is blinking between blue and green, what we need to do is we need to go out, drive a little bit, hit the brakes probably about 20 times until that light becomes a solid color. Once that light becomes a solid color, it's calibrated and you're ready to go. It's going to do it for a look at installation of the Redarc Tow-Pro Liberty brake controller on a 2017 Ford Transit T350.